And probably none of them are true. And so you have to get honest with yourself and have a conversation between your conscious and your subconscious, and you sit on a pointy rock on top of a hill and you say, what is the truth? Who am I really? What would I want? Who do I want to be? Not maybe what do I want is the wrong question. I might change that. It's what do I want to be? Not what do I want to have? Not who do I want? Who do I want to be? If there were no impediments. And then when you figure that one out, you get all excited and you go, effing hell, that's it. And it fills you with awe. And it's that awe that's so important, because as Mind Valley teach in many of their lectures, which are free on YouTube, you can go and see them. They teach really well that awe, once you get it, leads to flow. And you don't have to put any more effort in. You don't have to believe anymore. You don't have to have the stress of how do I figure it out? It just happens. And so once you answer, that was what I was addressing in the last time I talked about awe. We had a few questions about it and they diminished towards the end. So I'm assuming that we're finished with awe, but if you still have questions about awe, feel free to put your hand up after I've talked about these two things I want to talk about. So these all come together. They're not separate. Okay, they're parts of a process in the same way that we're baking a cake. So what do I want is when you cream the sugar and the butter, and then the commitment ritual is when you add an egg and you mix it better and you get some decent batter. And then intention is when you put some flour in. And then the time imagination is when you bake it in the oven. And so without doing any one of these things, you don't end up with a cake. It's basically, it's ingredients, it's baking life. And so the next part for me, and the most important part, before you actually start working on intentions, is to commit to what you don't want, to what you want. Now, while you're committing, you do design an intention. The intention comes out of that commitment ritual. I tried to capture the emotions of what each of these parts of the process feel like. So the first one obviously is awe. What do I want? It's awe. The commitment ritual has this emotion of reverence, church-like, cathedral-like. And ritual is such an important part. The commitment, so if you've read the book or got the book Modern Magic, it's one of the few books I do recommend because I feel safe recommending it. The power of ritual is infused throughout the text. And ritual means different things to different people, but to me, it means reverence. It's like, I'm serious now. I'm taking charge of my life. I'm making this happen. I recognize I'm a magician and I'm going to make it happen. So I feel a certain reverence, almost like a religious reverence. And so now I want to balance that with how that goes on in life, or with how that feels in the energy of life. I'm going to do something I don't normally do, because if I do what I've always done, it's not a ritual. It's not reverent. And so for the commitment ritual, it's really important to make it special, to take yourself away, to treat yourself, to dress up, to show up the right way, to be in that moment and in that space. This is a webinar I did a couple of months ago, and I'm not doing any more live webinars. I'm just doing evergreen. And I think that's the way forward for me. In this webinar, I talked about how it fits in. So the importance of commitment rituals for a lot of different reasons. It really is a lot of reasons. It's as important as why you put an egg in batter. It does a lot of stuff. It has a lot of chemical reactions. And so what we're doing with the commitment ritual is we're putting ourselves in an energetic space. If you want to wear a hood, wear a hood. If you want to do it naked, do it naked. Whatever is reverent to you, whatever makes it special. You go to a place that's special, that means something. And what you're doing is two things immediately, scientifically you're doing. You are reprogramming your reticular activation system, whereby the reticular activation system says, my host, I use these words very carefully, my host really wants this. I'm going to do all I can to give my host what he or she wants, because that's my job. So you set in motion flow, more flow. You also start to engage in mirror neurons to start to pull out of the 2 million bytes of information you get every second, of which you only recognize 147. You start to pull out a different 147 that help you find the moving forward, the reacting forward for what do I want? That helps you define the intention. So you reprogram yourself. You're a biological computer designed in another place, put in a vehicle to have this experience, and you're just reprogramming. But you have the power to reprogram, and that's what makes it fantastic. All of that together, and the commitment ritual, gives you this opportunity to create self-confidence in what you're going for. If all you did was say, I know what I want, I feel awe, and didn't do anything else, it would fade very quickly, and the self-doubts would come in really quickly, and you'd think you're a nutter. And then you'd allow people around you to influence you, and you'd say, oh yeah, I was crazy. I'll go back to who I was. I'll go back in the quicksand. And so all of this is really important, that sense of reverence, that I'm making a commitment here. And therefore, I'm reprogramming myself, and therefore I'm triggering something that I can't stop. Once I've triggered this, it's happening. So that's why it has this reverence. So important, but you got to get it right. So there's plenty of evidence for that. So neuroscience demonstrates that people who commit to their goals by writing them down are twice as likely to achieve them. Imagine then how much you can achieve when you do a commitment ritual. You're not just writing it down and reading it and sticking it on a post-it pad. You're taking yourself to a special place. You are treating this with almost religious, godlike reverence. You realize that the kingdom of God is within, and I can create anything I want the moment I commit to it. It's huge. So some of you have heard the story through the Trev's Keys of once I got through the swimming underwater in grief and then came out and then said, okay, I'm ready for something else. What do I want? I took a long time to figure that out. I took 10 days on this occasion, and the energy where I was didn't feel right. I moved inland. It didn't feel right. I moved up. It didn't feel right for a while. I ended up on the summit of a hill with beautiful views and away from that squirrely energy of the glacial lake. And I think, yeah, I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. And I'm committing. And I will be here for as long as it takes. And then I committed and I said, okay, I want this. And I'm committing to do what it takes, not knowing what those commitments mean. But you can't make a commitment and then go back down the hill and say, yeah, I'm just going to carry on as I was. I'll eat the same way. I'll exercise the same way, or not exercise the same way. I'll speak the same way. I'll think the same way. I'll have the same friends. I'll live in the same place. I've made my commitment. No, you haven't. When you make a commitment, you make a commitment to change, to be willing to change everything. Personality, your shape, your size, your age, your health, whatever you need to change, your circle of friends, your location, whatever you need to change to get what I want to be, you're committing to. It's a huge thing, which is why it needs reverence. And I don't think that in the original transformation experience, I expressed it this, but I do now. So please go back if you haven't done so already. And it's really interesting that the Stanford AI qualification for intentions is choice with commitment. And this is just recent. So commitments they need a lot more than just writing down an intention. And I hope that is useful. You book an appointment with yourself. Your conscious and subconscious are going on a date. And make sure you check the weather. Make sure you check the location. Make sure it's really 5-star, high-end, whatever it's going to be. And I don't just mean in a hotel. I mean a beautiful cove or a beautiful countryside or a fantastic lake where you know you can be private, where you can be alone and not see too many people during that time that you're doing this. You dress accordingly. I always take a really expensive bottle of wine because I think there's something really beautiful about the Jeeves of Worcester mentality, where you go to a place where there's actually no facilities around you whatsoever, and you open a $300 bottle of wine. I just love that. I think that's real reverence. That's just my thing. You could equally put on a robe with a hood if you want, or you could equally go and do a nudist thing. Whatever reverence means to you, you put that in your commitment ritual and you go to that place, and it's you and you alone, no one else. And you basically sit until you figure it out. And what you're figuring it out is, did that thing I said that what I want to be, did it really fill me with awe? Or was it something that one of the other perspectives would like? How people see me? Is it to please them? Or how people really see me? How would they see me in this way? Am I willing to commit to this, knowing that those two perspectives are going to change dramatically? And how I think people see me is going to change dramatically. How people actually see me is going to change completely. I'm just going through this now as a consequence of the commitment ritual I did over a year ago, in that there's some people who are in my energy space don't want to be there anymore. It's too big for them. The VLSE is going through that right now. VLSE is too big for some people, and that's fine. You have to decide for yourself where you're at. So that's the commitment ritual. I think most people skip it or treat it to an hour or 2 hours, and they probably don't go much further than the garden. I think it has to be so special that you go somewhere, you probably somewhere really important to you, or somewhere you've never been before, somewhere you've always wanted to go, somewhere that inspires you or challenges you. That would be my last one. It was a very challenging place. And you stay there until you feel a match between what you want and what you're willing to commit, what you're willing to accept in terms of change. And when you feel that, what you're looking for is an emotional level of calm. Of course, it's absolutely crazy. We're all crazy people here. That's what makes us special. But does it feel calm? At that point, your commitment rituals worked. And you can move on to the next thing, which I'll talk about next week, which is how you set an intention from that. There have to be questions about this, because I don't think anyone here has done it that way. If you have done it that way, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, please raise your hands if you have anything. So Jackie, hi.
Hi.
Hey, Jackie.
Where does the calm come in?
It's the emotion of intuition. It's when you know it's right. So people often ask me, what's the emotional level or the vibrational level of intuition? How do you know? So if you think something and you feel fear, it's not right. If you feel something and you get all excited, not all, but you get all excited, like, oh, that would be cool. It's not calm. You see, what you're looking for is, this is absolutely insane. Everyone's going to be against me for it. I'm going to possibly look like a fool to most people, but you know what? It just feels right. It just feels calm.
And that can happen in the commitment ritual.
Yeah, it does. I will wait until I get it.
Okay.
Until I balance it. So I will balance the what do I want to be with what am I willing to give up for as long as it takes until it gets to this point where you go, that's it. So I move things in and out. So I'm actually challenging the answer to the question, what do I want to be, to an extent? And sometimes my challenge is that's not high enough. I do feel awe, but this doesn't feel quite right. So I'll just move things around. And remember, we're all just energy. So what you're doing is playing with energy a little bit until you feel that balance, that kind of a constructive interference that just feels, yeah, that's it. That's it. Often it surprises a lot of people, and always surprises me. You know, I might have, in my last commitment ritual, I might have thought it was, okay, I want to be a billionaire now, or something like that. And that didn't feel right. And so it didn't get the calmness. And then I found it was something completely different to that had nothing to do with money or business or anything like that. It was this one thing, which will keep me going for 20 years, which I probably already knew, but had forgotten. And it just felt right. Crazy it is. Like, obviously, I can't tell you what it is because I've taken an intention out of it. But there are some people here who do know what it is. And it just felt, it matches right. So it's that calmness that you're looking for.
Nice. Okay. Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, thank you. Trev, my question's kind of more about location. Previously, and here you've mentioned the location wasn't right, so you moved. I guess I always do my intention in a specific location because I find that peaceful. It sounds like maybe that might not be the right thing.
No, that's right. No, you are right. That the reason this one worked that way is I was in a place I'd never been before. So normally I would go to it was coming out of lockdown and England was still difficult to get into. So I decided not. Normally I would go to England, South Coast. There's this place called Soar Cove, SOAR. Oh, I shouldn't have told you, you'll all go there now. And I could normally go there, and it's difficult to get down the cliff. And when you get down there, it's just stunning. There's a haystack rock that breaks up the waves. So it's like beautiful, gentle water. And every time I've been, I've never seen another soul, not even a dog or occasional sheep on the cliffs or something. And so for me, that was always, it comes from a past life of mine where I used to work near there. And what became one of my movie scripts too, where I based it there. So it has a very special reverence for me. And so I love to be there, but I couldn't get there. So I had a whisper in my ear to go somewhere else, and I went somewhere else, and I couldn't find that same energy. And so I kept looking for it. And I think this is an important thing, and we're all energy looking for energy. So you've obviously got a fantastic place where your energy feels totally matched and you're grounded and inspired. That's what you're looking for. Because it was it was in Canada, and I didn't know the area. I didn't know where to go to find it. So I had to keep moving around.
Okay, I was concerned because my spot is that.
No, if you got the spot, I have the spot. Yeah. Okay. I have the spot, Aaron. I just couldn't get there that time, unfortunately.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Aaron. Hi, Anne.
Hello. I have quite a number of times over my life before this transformation information. I have found myself going to a spot, like pilgrimaging to a particular spot, because I felt like there was something I needed to do there. And I would get lost in the environment. It's where my spirit river place is now. I get lost in the environment there. And it was so important to pilgrimage there. I would have something that I was going to ask for. And it was the packing up, the going through the woods, getting to the spot, and then you're at the spot and it feels absolutely full of possibility. And then getting lost in the spot, and then finding myself asking for things, and then those things showing up without any effort. I've had that. It's a little different from the commitment ritual, but it's almost like an ask, a prayer, a conversation, a collaboration. Is that similar to what you're doing when you're doing the commitment ritual?
It absolutely is. And I think you described it better than I do, Anne, to be honest with you. I'm going to steal that. So I love the word pilgrimage because I'm a hedonist, not a religious person, but not that there's much difference. But I think you're absolutely right. So the pilgrimage, when you pack your little bag, even in that moment, I'm taking great reverence about this. I'm making sure I've got everything, that it's clean, that I get my best glass, I get my best wine, I get my fanciest corkscrew, and I get my, a brand new pad of paper, not the scrap that I've been using around the house. I have paper everywhere. And I get a new pen, make sure it's full, make sure it's got plenty of ink in it. And I treat it with almost like a religious reverence, I think, just like you do. So pilgrimage is a perfect word for what I'm trying to describe. So thank you.
And then the times that I have had those things play themselves out, I just get lost in like a play. I have a child fantasizing about what you'd rather have instead of what has been there. And whole areas have been cleaned up for me. Things have been taken down. I haven't had to spend money, or not that I wouldn't find it pleasant to spend money. You know what I mean? I'm getting to that point where I feel like that would be fun too. But it's interesting how many things can happen. And the thing that I notice when those things happen for me, what I was doing before they happened, is I was putting that out fully to the tips of my toes. I was putting that vision, feeling that vision fully. There's something about it. There was an uncoupling from logic. It just was a wish almost, or a vision. And sometimes I wondered if it was already there in my proximity and I was just noticing it. You know what I'm saying? Time is a funny thing. Perhaps we are drawn to something and we're getting a whiff of it.
I think so. I think also too, in general life, we don't give ourselves this much space and time for our conscious and subconscious to have a conversation and to hang out like friends. Everyone's rushing around all the time, and everyone's got to-do lists and all the rest of it. So that's why I think that taking a pilgrimage, as you called it, is so important, because what you're saying is nothing else is going to interfere with this. This is it.
Like you're creating a gift box. It's like you're wrapping it and putting a beautiful bow on it, and you're carrying it carefully to the car. There's something about the way it's being treated that your whole being knows what you're going. They know where you're going. You know where you're going. Your senses know. You're prepping for it all the way up. You're seeing magnificent things along the way. It's like everything is working out for you, and you get delivered there, almost like, how did I get here? It's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Asha.
Thanks. I think maybe even the last two responses, but so I guess what I'm curious about is the apprehension or fear or excitement of going beyond where you've been, where I've been, and trying to decipher that. Is it just a fear or excitement of the unknown, but not getting to that calm? And then wrapped up with that pilgrimage, or what Anne was saying is, but somehow intuitively, do you know a part of you is knowing where you're going and you're meeting yourself there? Or I want to get past the fear, but I don't know when the fear is warranted or not warranted.
So the fear comes in because you immediately say, how is that possible? That's impossible. Who the hell am I? People are going to laugh at me. So that's why I have all the practical applications in transformation. That's what they're there for, because that's normal. That's what we all have all the time. Like, have I lost my marbles? I can't do this. I'm not even qualified. that's bound to happen after you've gone through this process. But now you have an armory, you have a quiver of beautiful tools in the practical applications in transformation to handle every one of those situations. That's when you pump up the volume. That's when you do the mirror work. You just keep doing it and keep doing it. And then one day what you want shows up and you think, I don't have to do that anymore. You don't need them. So I'll go and get another intention, go do something bigger. Don't be afraid of, we don't have to become like saints. This is perfectly natural process to decide what you want, to commit to it, and then have the self-doubts come and try to bury you. That's why I built transformation the way I've built it. So you can say, okay, I need to go and do my mirror work, and I'll remind myself what that is. Go into that part of transformation and say, oh yeah, that's right. I'm going to go talk to myself.
Thank you, Yasha. Okay, River, hi.
Hi, I think a specific direct question I have for you. Do you think that it was a process, this last commitment ritual was a process that would have taken 10 days anyway? Or do you think that it needed to take 10 days? Or do you think that you just found the spot? If you had found that spot on the first day, for instance, that it would have been.
If I found it on the first day, it probably wouldn't have taken 10 days. This one took 10 days because I was coming from such a dark place. I was coming from a place where I hadn't decided whether I wanted to stay on this mortal coil or not. And that's about as dark a place you can start. So I knew it was going to take time. And I was prepared for it to take time. And I prepared for any answer, actually. That lake did look very appealing at times. I'm not scared of death. So I had to have those thoughts. So for me, it was just my particular circumstances. And there may be others here who feel the same way. You may have had a really tough journey where you felt like you've had to battle to this point in time. Well, then your decision on what do I want and your commitment was going to take you slightly longer than it could take someone else who's already achieved 10 intentions. For them, and I was in that place before this last one, where I'd just go to Saw Cove and spend an afternoon and just say, all right, off I go, do this one now. It's really where you're coming from, River.
Gotcha. Well, I've done the commitment ritual. I actually enjoy doing it. And I do some aspect of it after every quiet time, after writing my intentions. I write something out. It's different every day. But part of me, I think part of me feels that I need to create more space than just one day, just one ritual for it anyway.
So I think that's perfectly okay, because I remember Aaron doesn't mind me talking, not quite behind his back because I can see him in the corner. But I remember years ago, Aaron sent me an email saying he spent 2 or 3 days camping and was off radio for that period of time, and how profound that was. And he told me that as a kind of a thank you that I'd encouraged him to do that. And when he sent me the email, I realized I hadn't done that in ages. So then I went and did it, So I think it does require a little more than normal. It's so important.
In my experience, a 10-day silent meditation retreat, on about the 7th or 8th day, I experienced this blooming, basically, which is, and in a very profound way that I may not have experienced otherwise. That's sort of what I'm like, that's what I'm after, and it may just take creating that space for several days.
Or something completely different that's outside your comfort zone, like a flight to Jordan's place in Bali. Something so different that,
right.
In that way, you're saying, this is reverent. I've never done this before. I would never think of doing this. I'm doing this because I care and I'm committing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like days of silence. If that's your thing, that's great. But it could be like saying, I've always wanted to go to this place. Really don't have the cash right now, but I'm going to make it happen. Is that important to me?
That's great. Thanks, Trev.
Thank you, River. Yeah. It reminds me of my first commitment ritual last year. I went to Ecuador and climbed the highest mountain there. I think I shared a picture on one of the webinars, and I took a glass of wine and realized I forgot the water. So I was quite drunk. And then on the way down, I was like, I'm really thirsty. I really need a drink. And there was this pile of ice that someone had emptied from a barbecue halfway down, and I was just sucking on the ice. Yeah, it was really powerful though. Yeah. Okay, so we got last one before we close out. Hi, Anna Maria.
Hi, thank you very much. Actually, it was a little bit answered in the last question. So I was wondering if it could even be inside your house or your home in a special place, but I think without taking the reverence or the seriousness of this amazing commitment, which has been like, it's been part of the whole transformation journey. I have the sense that it hasn't been just that moment, but it's the whole beginning of the first day of the transformation experience. And all of this thing that sort of brings this intense emotion every single time that you go through every line and you feel it and you begin to sense all the questioning, all the world ahead, maybe that you might even be scared of undertaking. But I think that moment where you are able to spell it out in the very right place is something that is sometimes undescribable. But I still have the doubt whether, how do you really know about that you are the right place? So that's the only thing. So is the place the most important thing?
No. Let's say the hurricane is predicted, and so you can't go out then, and you decide to do it at home. How you'd be reverent at home is you would clean your house from top to bottom. You would go out and you would get fresh flowers and you put them all over the place, and you would create something that's magnificent for you. So for some people, it would be an altar. For other people, it would be a space in the house that just looks beautiful today and has never looked like that before because I never did this to it before. You know, a good example would be my wedding ceremony, my marriage. Okay. We decided to get married at home, but we could have just said, okay, let's get married at home, have some people around, have some champagne, say a few words, have a bit of a party. But no, we didn't. We turned our house into this very special space, not by bringing stuff in, not by bringing flowers. We had some flowers, but mostly from our garden, stuff like that, but by making ritual within this ceremony. So for instance, it was important to Jess and I because of who we are. We had a broom jumping ceremony. That was very reverent for everybody. We only had 9 guests and they were all Jess's friends. I didn't bring anybody in. You never know how that's going to go, but everybody stepped into the ritual. So every single guest blew my mind away with their words and with what they brought to this ritual. A sound bowl, somebody brought a particular flower that's really important and has a significance that I'd never heard of. So they made this moment inside this house so reverent, I was transported back to Pleiades. That's what you do. So it's not where you go, it's where you feel the most reverent. And if that's at home, then you would create that in some way, in some magical way.